Got it. No typos.
All right, we have two guest speakers tonight, so welcome to our guest speakers. Typically, we have about 10 minutes or so for our guest speakers, so we'll divide that time with you guys. If you want to tell us who you are, what you're all about,
sure.
And welcome.
I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Dayton City Commission, and if you've been around town for a while, you know this is not the first time I've run for Dayton City Commission. There are a whole bunch of things that we could talk about, but if I'm going to talk about one thing with you, it's about creating value in our community, because that's what we have done in South Park, and that's what I want to bring to the rest of the city, to the rest of the neighborhoods, and I haven't seen it from this commission. What I have seen is a concentration on downtown, with a whole lot of subsidies for private developers from out of town to come in and compete in many times with local business. As a small businessman, I would be very upset if I owned a restaurant in the Oregon district and had to buy my building at market rates and fix it up and build my business, and have somebody come in and be given a building that the taxpayers paid $450,000 for $10, and then get the garden station thrown in for free. What I really want to see happen in the city is what I call equal opportunity economic development. That means we spell out what the parameters are before you come up with any grand scheme for, giving tax breaks or anything else, and it's applied to everybody the same way. That would be a huge start. But there are 5 other issues, and I have them on the back of my cards here. And the first one is a really sad one, and I shouldn't have to be standing here in front of you and talking about it. And it is, we need a safe jail. Now, people have said to me, oh, I don't care, just don't go to jail. It doesn't work like that. People go to jail who are innocent until proven guilty. People go to jail for all kinds of things. Some people because they have mental health issues. The jail is currently our largest mental health facility in Dayton, and it's sad and it's wrong. But nobody should risk life and limb for being in jail. And so far, we've seen over $13 million in just the last year paid out in settlements for mistreatment of prisoners. As a Dayton City Commissioner, I can't let you, your friends, your family be placed in that jail if it's a possible death sentence. It's just unacceptable. And I haven't heard a word out of the incumbents talking about that. The second issue I already talked about, which is your tax dollars shouldn't be subsidizing businesses that could put your friends or your favorite business out of business. Okay, so I've talked about that. The third one is another issue which I have a real problem with. We just had 2 Dayton police officers here. They gave you a report, they do their job. I know that in turning around South Park, one of the most important things that ever happened was Miami Valley Hospital paid for 2 community-based police officers. It made a huge difference. But they were Dayton police officers, because when I moved to Dayton, that's all there were. Now, Premier has its own police force, UD has its own police force, Sinclair has its own police force, Metro Parks has its own police force, Grandview has its own police force. Now, some of them have varying levels of authority, but the Dayton, University of Dayton police officers can arrest you. They can pull out an AR-15 and walk around in the streets with it. They don't report to anybody that you elect. These are in fact private police forces, private armies, and there is no excuse for that. After Samuel DuBose was shot on a traffic stop 2 years ago in Cincinnati, it might be 3 years now, shot dead on a traffic stop by a University of Cincinnati police officer, that should have been the end of the private armies. I don't believe that only rich people should have their stuff protected by an army. I think we are entitled to have police forces. And I want to put a stop to this. When I first moved to Dayton, we had over 500 sworn officers. we're struggling right around 300. Sometimes you don't get the same response that you would do in the Oregon district when there's a mass shooter involved. The fact that the Oregon district always has 5 or 6 police officers is great, but we have other neighborhoods that get shootings very often, and the response times aren't there because we're understaffed. It's time to reel those back in. Another issue is there shouldn't be a penalty for fixing up your house. We're incentivizing the wrong thing. You fix up your house, then they reevaluate it and say, oh, you owed more in taxes. Excuse me? How about if you buy your car and you fix it up, all of a sudden they come back and say, oh, you owe another $1,000 in taxes. You wouldn't be very happy. This system of reevaluating properties might work out in Centerville or Washington Township or any other place in the county, but it doesn't work when you've got a neighborhood where you can buy any house in the neighborhood for $20,000. It just doesn't work. Somebody fixes something up and you raise their taxes and all of a sudden they can't afford to live there anymore. We need a new way of figuring out how to value properties. And I basically think that if you buy it in an arm's length transaction and it's not a give me and you pay market rates, that should be the rate that it's taxed at. And until you leave it and sell it to the next person, you don't get penalized for it. Now, I've had it happen both ways. I've had a house foreclosed next to me and my values went down. And I've had a house sell for $210,000 in a day and my values go up. I am not my brother's keeper. I should not be responsible for the values of the house next door, what it does or what it doesn't do. We need different plans and policies because the values in this community just aren't there. And it's not really fair the way they're going about it. So what would I rather do? I'd rather tax the people who don't take care of their properties more. Well, you don't have a roof, it's got holes in it, we'll tax you. You don't have gutters, we'll tax you. You don't have the doors and windows secured, we'll tax you to the point that either you fix it up or you turn it over to somebody that will. It's not fair to the people who've invested in their neighborhood to let somebody buy a house because it's $5,000 and then not take care of it. So we have to have minimum standards and they have to be enforced. And the last issue that I talk about is we have too many governments in Montgomery County. We have too many jurisdictions. We have crazy, crazy overhead of government in this county. And we take the costs of that, we basically put it on the taxpayers. This is the highest taxed community in the state, Montgomery County. More than Cuyahoga County, when you work it all out, with all the things we're paying for, it's the highest tax. We need to get a grip on things because, I'm sorry, Jefferson schools, they have 4 kids in a class. Not a classroom, in a class. Why is there a school district? Or the city of Moraine with 6,000 people has a city manager making $145,000 a year. That is literally $23 and change for every person from age 0 to 100 in Moraine to have a city manager. To do what? If we don't start addressing this, we'll never be competitive. And it's part of the reason we say we can't afford a new jail. It's part of the reason we have to beg and borrow to get people to locate in this community because the cost of all these banana republics in Montgomery County is out of hand. As is the cost of business to calculate how much do I charge an income tax if I have a heating and air company, for instance, that does work in multiple jurisdictions during the course of the day. Well, Joe was he was in Kettering for 4 hours, that's taxed at 2.5%, and then he was in Oakwood, that's at 2.5%. Then he was over in Beaver Creek, and there's no income tax there, and then he was here. How do you do that? It's crazy, and it's costly. And it's not working. So we need to address that. And the last proposal I have is I'm tired of seeing our tax dollars going to subsidize businesses like GE or Emerson or doing deals that Premier and UD come real ahead out of and not seeing money coming back into the hands of the poorest people in this community. So RTA We pay for it through federal taxes, a huge part of it. We have a half-cent sales tax, which we pay for RTA, which is why the Fairfield Commons Mall and all that stuff in Beaver Creek and the Green is kind of unfair because the buses run right to there, but they don't contribute any of those sales to paying for RTA. So we have those two taxing sources, and then we charge people to get on and off the buses. Of course, unless you're in the more affluent part of town where we have a free bus now. That is not a good way of doing things. Fares basically work out to less than 10% of their revenue. That's kind of a shocker. And the cost to account for the fares costs about 10% of that. They haven't worked in the equation how much time is spent where the bus just sits there while people are getting on and off and it's idling, and how it slows them down, and how much less the bus can go as opposed to hop on, hop off. So I'm saying for under $8 million a year, we could have free buses all the time, everywhere. This is not a new concept. It's done in other countries. It's done in other cities. It's done along Brown Street. It works for CareSource and UD and Premier. Why can't we do it for everybody? Think about it. After your home, your second highest expense is your automobile. If you're poor and you need to get to work, if you need to get to a grocery store, if you don't have one in your neighborhood, if you need to get to a medical appointment, all of a sudden, if RTA is free, those things become accessible. It empowers people and it gets them out there, and the cost is very low. To us, instead of putting $10 million into the arcade, we're charging Dayton Public Schools about $3 million to bus high schoolers. We could pay for RTA, but here's something else that people seem to have ignored. RTA stopped taking advertising on their buses. Just said, we don't want the money. And guess what? They could probably make a lot more money putting ads on buses if the buses are free and more people are riding them. And they could see about $6 million come in just by putting ads on their buses each year. So it's a break even. I see that as the kind of innovative thinking that I can bring to the Dayton City Commission. And I'd like your vote and your support November 5th. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. We got some things to pass out. And Shenise apparently isn't here, so you get Valerie.
Right. Welcome, Valerie. Tell us all about yourself.
She's not talking about herself, she's talking about Shenise.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
I can
go.
talk about Shenise too, but
Talk about
Some of us do know a little bit about Valerie.
okay.
Same here. Are you gonna hang around? Can we ask you a couple questions after?
I'd be happy to answer questions. I can do it now or I can do it later. I can do it. You got it, yeah. Cheryl doesn't have it.
No.
I've got things.
You have it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Shenise, she might show up.
I'm representing Shenise Turner-Sloss. I ran in the primary. I didn't quite make the cut, but it was my first time that I ran in the Dayton City Commission race. So I think I did pretty good. And so I'm backing Shenise Turner-Sloss for the Dayton City Commission. The service that she has is neighborhoods, housing, and integrity of our government. And that includes the water quality. Now, there's all different neighborhoods within the city of Dayton, and there has been promised by Chris Shaw when he ran the first time for the city that he was going to help in the west end of town to get renovation and neighborhood development, particularly business development along Gettysburg and Germantown streets. And that has not really developed. He was questioned at the Belmont candidates night about that issue, and he couldn't really explain that he has any projects, on the burner. Now, I support the city of Dayton's effort downtown. They have a task force, they have citywide, they have a budget and they have paid staff that help with development downtown. And the city has been committed to that. And I think the same commitment should be done to the neighborhoods, including our housing stock. You know, our housing stock is, in some neighborhoods, it's really gone, downhill. I mean, you can go down a couple of streets off of Riverside, and I ran into like 7 vacant houses, all dilapidated in a 2-block area. And you can find it in the Santa Clara neighborhoods, even in the east end of town, along Wyoming and Beaumont and other neighborhoods. I even found some vacant houses in some of the Belmont neighborhoods. So I like to get the city of Dayton commitment to our neighborhoods and to stabilize our housing stock. Right now, the solution for the city is to let them sit there, they get dilapidated, and then they have to then in a position to be torn down. The housing budget is at the bottom of the barrel. I think Darryl Fairchild, city commissioner, did bring that up. And so to get the city to make a commitment, we need people in the city commission that already are committed to the neighborhoods and the housing stock. And then one other thing is the city water. Now, after the Sharon Williams fire that happened, there was a real concern that all those gallons of paint was going to run into our water supply. We have a great supply of water due to the aquifer that was created, millions and billions of years ago. And we made a commitment, the city of Dayton did, after that Sherwood-Williams fire, we put together a task force, we put together various ordinances to protect our water supply. Now with the airport and the Air Force Base, we have some slush that goes in, has been developing some sludge going into our water supply, but there hasn't been any kind of real commitment by the city to address that. So those are some of the issues that Shenise has.
Speak of the devil.
Right there. Well, she can help.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I apologize for my tardiness. Thank you, Ms. Valerie. I actually just came from a fundraiser, right? You have to raise it up. So excuse me, I do not want to belabor and hold up any more of your time. But my name is Shenise Turner-Sloss. I'm a candidate for Dayton City Commission. I actually just live right across the way in southern Dayton View. I am a former City of Dayton employee. I tell everyone, hence the reason why they don't want me to run for City of Dayton Commission, because I know where all the bodies and the skeletons are kept, right? So I'm running for City of Dayton for a number of reasons. The first is we have to have clear processes. We have to have the ability to dissect the decisions and the policies and programs that are being made by our city officials, right? And we also have to have accountability. As your next City of Dayton Commissioner, I will be accountable for you, as well as the 141,000 residents in the city of Dayton, and making sure that you are in fact a priority, as well as our neighborhoods are a priority. The third thing is we need transparency. We honestly need to know and have clear plans and reports and results of where the money's going, right? We want to see where the federal dollars are going, where the state funds are going, where our tax base that we're generating from downtown businesses, where in fact those dollars are being used. Again, I really want people to be intentional this election cycle, to question some of the policies and decisions that have been made and passed, and that for us to really move forward, we have to have someone to not only have a desire to seek office, but have a passion for it, the knowledge and experience. And because of my position as a former City of Dayton employee, I have all three of those. I really want to work for the City of Dayton, and I believe in the City of Dayton. board. I ran in 2017, fell short by 1,700 votes. 2018, I was our current commissioner, Daryl Fairchild, his campaign manager. We're excited about this year's election cycle, and we really need to make some changes in the city of Dayton, but I can't do it without your help. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Again, I don't want to hold up any more of your time. Yes.
Okay, well, this is the question I was going to ask David.
Please.
Fine.
Well, you're talking about transparency and,
Yes.
and issues like that. How open is your door going to be? We have a wealth of talent in this city with ideas honed over years in the trenches, fighting the same battles over and over in different neighborhoods.
Yes.
And contributions, this was kind of the way it was at my employment. Well, tell us what you think.
Exactly.
When you do,
Yeah.
we've already decided,
Exactly.
And any effort to participate in any kind of,
In the process.
idea
right?
modeling
Yeah.
or anything like that is just kind of like stifled. It's controlled, and you waste your Saturday morning,
Yes.
and then it's never heard from again.
Yes. What's your name?
Cheryl Bates.
Ms. Bates, thank you very much. I appreciate that question. You're absolutely right. That's the reason why I'm running. So I started with the city of Dayton as a community service advisor. How many of you know what that is? Priority boards, right? So I'm very familiar with the process and really having the citizen participation, being part of that process, being a part of the decision-making process, democracy. But we've gotten away from that. Again, myself and two other ladies, we started a nonprofit, Neighborhoods Over Politics. We went to the city with countless recommendations. We should be doing this. These are some innovative and creative ways. We should look at this. Here's some funding streams. You don't have the money? Look at this. Oh, we got this. It fell on deaf ears. And that's why we're saying we need new people in office who's willing to listen. One of the things that I'm proposing to do as your next City of Dayton Commission is to have a People's Assembly. Not for the CEOs or the executive directors, for you to come down City Hall and you to make decisions about the residents in the City of Dayton when you live in Kettering or you live in Brookville, everywhere else, but you're making decisions about the residents. So what I'm proposing is that, again, we have a People's Assembly. I come to you, wherever the forum is, we sit down, we identify what the issues are, what the concerns are. We develop policies together. We take that back to the City Hall, and we make sure that we implement those same strategies so that, again, people in the community are solving their own issues, their own problems by being innovative, creative, and collaboratory for us to really move forward. Thank you for your question.
My answer is a little simpler. I got into City Hall for the very first time because I didn't feel I was being heard. When I was told I put up the wrong kind of garage doors on a $14,500 house, and the city had taken me to court, and I went to my commission thinking they'd help me. Instead, nothing. No answers, no response. That's not how this works. If you're elected to office, you work for the people who elect you. You don't work for the people who bought your campaign. And if you look, and if you've been paying attention, we've had one city commissioner resign for not the reason he stated, and now has pled guilty and is going to prison. And he's just the first. There will be more. If you look at the donations to Issue 9, it wasn't any taxpayers in the city of Dayton. It was all vendors. It was city employees. It was companies like Premier and CareSource who were actually saying, we're going to give you money to raise the taxes, the income taxes, on our employees. It is absolutely a pay-to-play environment down there. So I can guarantee you this, if it's Daryl Fairchild, Shenise, and me on the commission, and you come up to speak, and you're not done in 3 minutes, and you're making sense, or you have something to say, you don't have to bring a chain of people to come up one after another. You can continue to speak, number one. Number two, at the end of the time that you speak, we will try to recap your points and condense it down to tell you that we heard you. And we will assign somebody, the city manager, or whoever the city manager wants to take this on, to get back to you with a response. And we will set the response time at that commission meeting, and it will be on the calendar the next time.
That's kind of what I was getting at, but not quite. But you touched more on it. So it's like, we have projects here in this neighborhood that we have been fighting with the city, unequal
You don't have enough
treatment.
money, Cheryl, to get their attention. Sorry.
Exactly, but we can demonstrate to you unequal treatment between the developer downtown that did this
Trust me.
4-story condos and the tax valuation done on that, and our 2 properties over here on Central and Federal where we moved those.
And they're still
at
sitting
our-
on jacks.
No, they're on basements now, but it has been one hellacious battle after another. They were taxed, they were valued more when they were sitting on jacks than when they were sitting on their foundations in their original location.
Which is what I get back
And
to.
they were overvalued as far as the tax would. It's just
Right.
those kinds of things, and, you know, I don't wanna take the whole evening here.
Are there any other questions?
Well, it isn't so much a question as a comment. 2 of the issues that you are talking about, the jails, for instance, and the tax valuation, don't they more specifically come under the county category rather than the city commission?
You are entirely correct, but I'll tell you this, we pay money to house people in the jail. The city of Dayton used to have their own jail. And we did this deal, and we pay money. I am not gonna pay money to send one of our citizens into a place where they're gonna die. So we're gonna fix that, or we're gonna stop sending our citizens there. We're either gonna have our own jail again. I don't care what the cost is, but I'm not willing to let anybody go in there and die. And 2, on the property taxes, look, there are programs, the Community Reinvestment Act, now that Trump has his opportunity zones. There are hub zones. There are all these federal programs that were supposed to lift these areas out of poverty, and none of them have worked. And there have been massive instances of things like gentrification, which is what's happened in my neighborhood. And this model does not work when the property values have been discriminated against over decades and redlined, and you can't even get a loan for a house under $50,000. So if you can't get a loan for a house under $50,000, all the comps are under $50,000, how are you gonna fix up a house to make it worth what a house should be worth $50,000? Do you agree? So something is structurally wrong with the system, and we're spending money, we're paying this company to go out there and come up with these valuations that are pretty much fantasy land. We should be spending that money on bringing the property values up. Part of the problem is we've had a lot of money go into quasi-public funds like the Dayton Development Coalition, citywide development, these types of organizations, and we have no accountability back. Learn to Earn, or the Preschool Promise. Nobody gets reports on where that money's going and what it's doing. I have to change the model, or it will not change. We've seen it for years. Nothing has changed. In fact, you can still buy a house in Dayton for $14,500. That shouldn't happen. A friend of mine's father built a house in 1963 for $19,000. He's lived in it, he's taken care of it. All these years, you know, it's still worth $19,000.
Thank you all very much for coming. There's more information on their flyers with information, like where you can email them, or their website, or even phone numbers here where you can call them for more questions. And I hope you all come to the pumpkin glow and carve a pumpkin or 2. It's so much fun. It's coming up at the end of the month, all the dates and stuff, and then bring your whole campaign.
So what do you do with the guts of 1,000 pumpkins?
Well, unfortunately, we throw them away, but we do have some farmers that come and take some of the pumpkins after they're all done in the glow to feed their animals and stuff like that. And then we also recycle them. From there, Grandview and the city of Dayton help clean up the pumpkin mess, and Grandview takes them to their to Southview, where they have like a compost pile. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our compost pile is too small, and
like to see you.
But Sandra, you're welcome to take as many as you want. But, so thank you very much for coming. You're welcome to attend the rest of the meeting, or you don't have to, that's your call.